Hello everyone, Chris here, reporting for United People's TV, with another weekly loan watch for you. Now as always, I'm going to start with the defenders. Cameron Borthwick-Jackson at Wolves. Now Wolves played 2 games last week. They played Newcastle at St James's Park in the Cup, just a couple of days after they beat them 2-0 at St James's Park in the Championship. And unfortunately this time it was basically role reversal, so Newcastle won 2-0, Wolves are out of the League Cup. But then they returned home and beat Brentford 3-1 in the Championship. So it's been a bit of an inconsistent week for Wolves. And Cameron Borthwick-Jackson started both games, and it's been a bit of an inconsistent week for him as well. I mean, in the Newcastle Cup game, I've seen the highlights, so I've read a few reports, and it seemed like Matt Ritchie gave him just a terrible time. You know, Borthwick-Jackson was suffering. He couldn't get near Ritchie. Ritchie basically tore him apart. And, you know, he's gonna get games like that. You know, you can't expect players to have good games all the time. And I'm sure it's, even though he may have been suffering on the night, overall it'll be a good experience for him. He will learn a lot from that. And he improved slightly in the Brentford game, but you know, it's not been the best week of Borthwick-Jackson's career. So, but Wolves got a few points on the board, so keep it up, Wolves, and I hope things improve for you, Cameron. Varela at Eintracht Frankfurt, injured, I'm afraid. He's going to be out for a few months with that ankle ligament damage. So, you know, all I can keep saying is get well soon. Pereira at Granada. Now, Pereira's an interesting one because he started the season in centre mid. But in recent games, he's been shifted out to the left wing. And in Granada's most recent game, although they lost 2-1 at home to Athletic Bilbao, you know, Pereira played quite well. You know, he was doing some nice dribbles and he was putting a few good crosses into the box. And he was creating a couple of opportunities for his team. So, you know, it wasn't his fault that Granada went on to lose. But what I like about that is it shows that he's versatile. You know, I'm used to seeing him in centre mid, but he can play on the left, he can play on the right. You know, his versatility is really impressive, and he seems to not be having a bad game. You know, wherever they put him, he seems to be doing okay. So keep it up, Pereira, and I hope things improve on the pitch for Granada. Now let's move on to Adnan Januzaj at Sunderland. Now, last week he got sent off against Spurs, and I basically said that performance summed up the start he'd had at Sunderland. And actually, I have to hold my hands up, I was mistaken there. I've been getting a lot of feedback from Sunderland fans, and I really appreciate it, and I apologise if I've been too harsh on the man. I probably have been a bit too harsh on him. It's hard to see all the games in full, and the Spurs game was the only Sunderland game that I've seen all the way through from start to finish. So I kind of based everything on that, and I was mistaken there. From what I hear from Sunderland fans, actually in the games before the Spurs game, he's actually been playing quite well. So for this week, Sunderland played 2 games. Obviously, he was suspended for their 2-1 win against QPR in the League Cup. But then he came back into the starting lineup for probably one of the games of the weekend against Crystal Palace, where Sunderland went 2-0 up. And then Crystal Palace came back and won 3-2 with a Benteke goal in the last minute. And he started that game, and he actually played quite well. I watched the highlights of that, and I've read the reports and everything, and he made a few dribbles, he was involved in there, he played quite a few through balls. He basically started a few of their attacks, and he got a few decent shots off as well. So it's definitely a step in the right direction for Adnan Januzaj, and don't worry, Sunderland fans, I'll be keeping a close eye on him throughout this season. Now let's move on to James Wilson at Derby. Now unfortunately, James Wilson's suffered a minor knee injury, so he was out for Derby's 3-0 defeat against Liverpool, you know, in the League Cup. So Derby are out of the Cup, and they lost 2-1 at home to Blackburn Rovers at the weekend. So that wasn't a good result either. So, and because, you know, of his injury, you know, he wasn't starting either of those games. So I haven't got much to report on those matches, other than to say I hope you get well soon. So that's it for Loan Watch this week. Leave your comments in below, subscribe to United People's TV, and take care everyone. See you later.